Hello and welcome to Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. I am your host, Jay Cluett, and normally on this show we would talk about the Deep Blue Sea trilogy, one chapter at a time. We've finished all of that. We're now doing some Deep Blue Sea adjacent films, whilst my co-host Mark is on paternity leave, looking after his adorable little daughter. So we're looking at films that I've never seen before, but that are in some way Deep Blue Sea adjacent, which is difficult for today's show. Today we're talking about Ravenous. What is Ravenous? Well, it came out in 1999, which is the same year as Deep Blue Sea. But other than that, they're not really that adjacent. But it's a film that came out that has come up on the podcast many, many times. The same way that The Descent did, which we covered last October. So Ravenous is a horror western cannibal comedy, ? Directed by Antonia Bird, starring Guy Pearce, Robert Carlyle, Jeremy Davies, Jeffrey Jones, John Spencer, Neil McDonough, David Arquette, a bunch of 90s guys. And Joseph Running Fox and Sheila Tousey make up, and Stephen Spinella make up the majority of the cast. It tells the story of Second Lieutenant John Boyd, played by Guy Pearce, who is a war hero during the Mexican-American War, gets sent to this backwater Fort Spencer in California because he's a bit of a coward. That has a ragtag group of terrible soldiers who encounter another guy, Robert Carlyle, whose story we will unfold over the course of this podcast. But I need somebody who is much more familiar with this film, loves this film, wants to talk about this film all day, every day. So joining us for the first time, she's not a returning guest, from Zorro with a Shotgun and Ghouls Mag, is Zoe Rose Smith. Zoe, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be talking about Ravenous.
Well, before we get into Ravenous, we tried to get you on the first season of the show, but we couldn't get our schedule sorted out. But what are your thoughts on Deep Blue Sea as a film?
I love Deep Blue Sea. It's one of those 90s films that for me is a bit of a staple movie, to be honest. I think I remember watching it many, many times at sleepovers. It was like, what else are we going to watch than Deep Blue Sea, and just scream the whole way through.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. So any like favourite bits, any moments? I think we tried to get you on for the chapter where Janice dies when she's in the tower. She falls off the ladder and is eaten by the shark.
Most of I'm like absolutely terrified of the sea and sharks, so I can't even watch things like Shark Week. I hate it. So pretty much I guess most of my favourite scenes in Deep Blue Sea are the ones where the shark kind of appears out of nowhere. It's been many, many years since I've seen the film, but I believe there's a scene where they're in a room and he kind of just comes out of the water, one of the sharks, without much notice, and I remember that being terrifying. I think there's some electrical things going off.
That's the Susan scene where she electrocutes the shark, yeah, because there's a model shark that kind of floats towards her and she thinks, oh, it's the model shark. Then she looks back and it's actually the real shark, and it's been waiting in her bedroom for hours maybe.
That's the one. And I remember always, because obviously in the film, aren't they, they're like meant to be intelligently modified,
yes.
Which is a mad concept when you think about it now, but at the time I was like, oh my god, this is the most intelligent take on a shark movie.
I mean, you're on the right podcast to think that. So we've dedicated 35 consecutive episodes just talking about Deep Blue Sea. So.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's a great film. Like, it's definitely, it's a bit OTT, it's a bit, it is what it is, but if you don't like Deep Blue Sea, I think, there's obviously something wrong with you. It's just fun.
I agree. I completely agree. So have you ventured beyond that into any of the sequels?
I have not, no. Like I said, I find those, and even now Deep Blue Sea, I find those films terrifying. So I actually struggle to sit and watch movies like Deep Blue Sea without being absolutely petrified. So I haven't dived deeper into them.
Nice. Well, the second one has baby sharks, if that's any help. Which they can come into rooms and swim all over the place and eat you that way. And then the third one is like out in a tropical, not a reef, it's like an environmental area. But they're both, 3 is very good, 2 has its moments, is all I'll say.
I mean, anything with baby sharks is, in my head, I'm not sure whether they're more terrifying or whether I'll kind of go, oh, that's quite,
Well,
quite cute.
the baby sharks in Deep Sea 2 are more like piranha. So they just kind of gnaw through you, and it's a fun film. They had a very limited budget and they did what they could with it.
I might, I might need to do a full kind of watch of the trilogy at some point. I feel like it sounds like a good time. Couple of beers, some pizza,
Yep.
some friends.
We'd
Maybe,
recommend it.
reinstate the sleepover.
Sounds good. And numerous people do get eaten in those films, but more people, I would say, get eaten in Ravenous, which brings me to your topic of choice, shall we say, when it comes to horror films. You seem to be a fan of cannibal cinema. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do like cannibals.
Why?
That is a very good question. I think I really like cannibals because there's something, I don't know, for me it's like one of the big taboos. And as you know, and for anyone listening that doesn't really know what I'm into, I'm obviously into a bit more of the more extreme and nasty side of horror. So I'm not kind of like ghosts or anything like that. I'm all about torture and things like cannibals and necrophilia and the dark side of it. And cannibals, I don't know, I've always had a bit of a fascination with the thought of it. And I love, like serial killers and all of the messed up things. And I feel like cannibalism is one of those aspects that always kind of crops up in like the darkest stories. And obviously Ravenous, as I'm sure we'll get into it, has got some ties to real kind of stories that happened around cannibalism. And I just find it disgusting but fascinating.
You can't look away. It's a car crash.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly that. I'm guessing you're not a big cannibal fan, Jay.
I haven't seen many cannibal films, and I am okay with that. It's not a subgenre I seek out. And when I proposed watching this and described what the film was, my wife was like, no, thank you. You're on your own with that one. Which I think may have been a mistake, because having watched Ravenous, there's actually not that many scenes of people being eaten. There are a few. There's a couple here and there. One of them's a dream sequence. But it's not the goriest. It could be a lot worse. Because it's like, I feel like if I compare this to the other horror western cannibal film that comes to mind is
Bone Tomahawk?
Bone Tomahawk, thank you. Yeah, that's a lot grislier in its scenes, and I enjoyed that one a great deal as well. It has a very similar character actor-filled cast, but a very different tone.
It does have quite a... I actually, when I rewatched Ravenous, because it was, funny enough, I rewatched it before we spoke about doing this episode. I just went, what am I in the mood for? Oh, Ravenous rewatch.
It's on Disney Plus.
Literally, and then I back-to-backed it with a rewatch of Bone Tomahawk. Nice. And yeah, I highly recommend that as a cannibal treat, if you will.
Yeah, it's been a few years since I think I last saw that when it first hit streaming, or first hit DVD. Bone Tomahawk. So I remember liking it a great deal, but I haven't gone back to it because it's quite a long film, if I recall, and I guarantee my wife would not sit down for that one. It's like Ravenous, but it's in daylight, and people get cut in half.
Yeah, it's got some very, very nasty scenes in there. It's don't watch it whilst you're eating your dinner, basically.
No, definitely not. Which I would also say about Ravenous, especially like this is a film that somehow makes the scenes of people eating people more appetizing than the scenes of people eating steak. Because the film opens with soldiers being rewarded for this. There's like a ceremony where Guy Pearce is being made captain or second lieutenant or something, and there's like a big dinner of everyone has this giant plate of bloody steak flies flying around. It looks disgusting. The noises going on. It's horrendous, disgusting. I was appalled just at the steak they were eating. It didn't put me off. I had steak last night, but it wasn't pleasant to watch.
No, it's not. It's not the nicest opening, and like you said, they really don't make the steak very appealing, and it's bizarre because I think the first time I saw Ravenous, I was actually a vegetarian.
Right.
I'm not now. Now I'm like, yeah, my steak needs to be
This is the
bleeding.
film
Like,
that turned you.
I think so, but I don't know what that says about me, but yeah, you're right. Like that opening sequence, they make it, and even Guy Pearce as Boyd when he's sat there trying to eat it, he's not really enjoying the meal whatsoever either.
No, it's giving him kind of PTSD flashbacks to his past, where it turns out he's been rewarded for taking this integral point in a Mexican command post, where instead of actually fighting to take it, he got spooked, got panicked, and just laid down and played dead. And so everyone died on his side. They all got dragged to the other side of the border, where a giant pile of bodies on top of him, blood poured into his mouth from his commanding officer, and that gave him the strength to fight, to like break a guy's neck in one swift movement, and he took the base single-handedly. So it's giving him some kind of PTSD of like the blood that he ate, and he's already part Wendigo at that point. He's on the way.
Which I think fair enough. If you'd had, if you'd experienced blood from a dead body pouring into your mouth, I think, having your next meal as a bloody steak probably wouldn't really be the most appealing thing. I feel like, poor Boyd at that point just needed like a nice salad and a hug.
Just a cheese sandwich would be for just anything else, just be dry.
Yeah, literally like the driest food possible. And that's just the beginning of his poor kind of journey and descent into madness, really.
Yes, well, it's that Wendigo aspect is why we're talking about it today. Is because in Deep Blue Sea, Samuel L. Jackson's character Russell Franklin, he has a story of of getting lost in the mountains, barely surviving. 7 people survived the crash, 5 made it out, and from that, Mark hypothesized that he's a Wendigo. So, as you do. So those 2 people who didn't make it, they ate them, and now Sam Jackson is a Wendigo, like in Ravenous. I'd never even heard of Ravenous before he made that comparison, and then it came up every time that story came up. So did Ravenous. I thought, well, we should probably add this to the list of films we talk about then. Yeah,
it makes sense.
That's why we're here today.
I love it. It's quite a loose kind of tie, but actually, now you've said it, it's like, yeah, it's pretty actually quite a good tie-in as well there.
Yeah, well, every film we cover here, I have a list at the end of the episode comparing it to Deep Blue Sea, how many ways it is like Deep Blue Sea, and I tried with this one, but I would say this is the loosest comparison between the two. Like the descent, you can even argue like, there's people eating creatures and they're below ground level, which is how I argued that one, because that one came up a lot when we kept referencing other shark movies, and 47 meters down kept coming up, and then the sequel, and that has sharks in it that are like the creatures from the descent who are like blind. We've covered all of those films now. So. Anyway, so I mentioned the cast of Ravenous. Any standouts from you? Any favourites from the guys there?
I absolutely adore pretty much the entire cast.
Yep, me too.
I mean, Guy Pearce and Robert Carlyle are the perfect pairing as our main 2 characters in this. Love them both in this. Robert Carlyle, I feel like he is always, for me, has been, whatever I've seen him in, he creeps me out. Like, he really, I don't know what it is about him. He's just got these eyes that I find that I'm like, what is wrong with him? Poor bloke. I'm sure he's lovely in real life.
Oh, I don't know. He's good at playing bad guys, so you never know.
He is, which, I mean, maybe that's a thing, if you're good at doing it, seems to be. But the other person I love, and like I said, I did a back-to-back with Bone Tomahawk, is obviously